The world is just simmering with crises right now, from Tehran all the way to Minneapolis. And yet, if you look at the last 24 hours, things have been, well, relatively quiet. Not a lot of major escalations. So the real question is, what do we do with this quiet? Is this just the calm before a massive storm? Or is it a rare, golden opportunity to actually get ahead of what's coming next? Okay, so let's really dive into this. To get our heads around the current moment, we're going to look at it through two very different lenses. On one hand, you've got the realist. This person sees all these flashpoints as proof that we're on the brink of imminent danger. But then you've got the strategist. They look at this exact same quiet period and see a chance for some proactive, really intelligent planning. Let's see how they break down the very same set of facts. So we're going to start with the two threats that are rated as the most critical. These are the situations where the stakes are absolutely highest, and it's where our two perspectives really start to pull apart. First up, Iran. Let's just get the facts on the ground in Iran. There's a nationwide internet blackout. It's basically plunged the entire country into digital darkness. And this is all happening while massive protests against the regime are being met with some pretty serious warnings of a harsh crackdown. It's an absolute powder keg. And here is where you really see our two perspectives collide. The realist, they see red alerts flashing everywhere, the risk of a regional war, total chaos in the oil markets. But the strategist, while totally acknowledging the danger, immediately reframes the problem. For them, this crisis is a vital stream of intelligence. So their recommendation isn't just to react to the chaos, it's to monitor it for signs of regime collapse and actually learn from it. And this quote, this gets to the absolute heart of the strategist's mindset. A crisis isn't just a failure that you have to endure. It's a lesson. It's a data point that shows you exactly where you're weak and, more importantly, where you need to build resilience for whatever is coming down the line. All right, let's move on to the second critical threat. We have reports confirmed by at least two major outlets that Russia has actually deployed a nuclear-capable missile system inside the Ukraine conflict. This is a huge escalation, both in rhetoric and in the actual hardware on the ground. So the really crucial point here is all about focus. The realist is, and you can't blame them, completely fixated on the horrifying potential outcome, nuclear escalation, a direct NATO response. The fear is real. But the strategist, they immediately shift from that potential outcome to what we can do right now. The recommendation is urgent. It's practical. Track the signals. Proactive monitoring becomes the very first line of defense. It's a way to buy precious time and information before the worst can happen. Okay, so let's see how this same dynamic plays out as we shift gears from critical threats down to high-severity threats. And for this, we're turning our attention to some growing unrest right here in the Americas. So in Minneapolis, federal agents shot a civilian. But the situation got a lot more complicated when the FBI reportedly blocked the state from investigating, which then led to the National Guard being deployed. It's become a really tense standoff between federal and state power. The debate here is really about scale. The realist sees a high stakes, yeah, but maybe a localized risk of some civil unrest and political blowback. The strategist, though, looks at this and sees it as a potential symptom of something much bigger. They see it not just as one event, but as a stress test for the entire country's domestic institutions. And their key recommendation is to watch very, very carefully for any signs that this could spread. Now, let's look south. On the border between Colombia and Venezuela, there are these vicious clashes between guerrilla groups that have sent thousands of people fleeing from their homes. It's creating a humanitarian crisis that's unfolding really, really fast. So the realist immediately zeroes in on the human cost, a regional migration crisis, dangerous instability. And that's the obvious immediate disaster. The strategist's view doesn't ignore that, not at all, but it frames the problem differently. It becomes a strategic challenge. The key isn't just to react to the suffering, but to actually assess and understand the flow of the crisis itself, because that's the only way you can effectively manage the outcome. None of these things happen in a vacuum, right? So now we're going to broaden our debate and look at the interconnected economic threats that ripple out from these flashpoints, affecting markets and, well, your wallet all across the globe. The realist takes one look at this chart and points to those high tension zones, the Middle East, Eastern Europe, as proof the world is on fire. But the strategist's eye? It's drawn to the moderate zones in the Americas. They don't see them as lesser threats. They see them as opportunities, places where preventative diplomacy and proactive work can still make a massive difference. It's really all about where you choose to focus your energy. Now, from the realist's point of view, this list is, frankly, terrifying. I mean, each one of these bullet points is a potential failure point for the entire global economy. You've got oil shocks from Iran, a $2 trillion unregulated banking sector in the UK, government intervention in housing. It really looks like a house of cards that's just waiting to tumble. But then, in comes the strategist with a complete reframing of the whole situation. This quote, it transforms that list of fears into a plan of action. It's not a prophecy telling us we're all doomed. No, instead, it's a blueprint, a clear, actionable guide that shows us exactly where we need to build economic firewalls to protect ourselves from these shocks. So, where does all this leave us? We've got the realist's very valid caution, and we've got the strategist's ambitious optimism. The path forward, it seems, requires both, synthesizing these two views, understanding the very real risks while actively looking for the opportunities to prepare. And let's be really clear here, the realist has a powerful point. The so what of all this is that having so many major crises blowing up at the same time is straining the world's ability to respond. I mean, think about it. There are only so many diplomats, so many resources, so many news headlines to go around. Our collective capacity is just being overwhelmed. And that brings us to the now what. The strategist would argue that this strange capacity is exactly why a proactive approach is the only real option we have left. We just can't afford to be reactive anymore. We need better monitoring to see things coming. We need proactive what-if planning to prepare for them. And we need a huge renewed push for diplomacy to try and prevent them in the first place. And let me tell you, planning today is unbelievably complex. Strategists use frameworks like this four worlds model just to make sense of it all. Take the Iran internet shutdown again. That's not just one event. It's a crisis in the digital world that's directly impacting physical protests on Earth. That's being monitored by satellites up in space, and it could be amplified by AI-driven propaganda in the synthetic world. Every single crisis now ripples across all these different layers of reality. And this right here is the final powerful argument from the strategist, and it's really the core idea of our entire explainer today. This quiet moment we're in, it's not a break. It's not time to kick back and relax. It's a head start. It's a strategic advantage that has to be seized and used to prepare for what we know is inevitably coming. So we're going to end not with an answer, but with a question that really highlights the incredible stakes here. Forget just monitoring the data streams for a second. What if the biggest what if of all actually happens? What would a post-regime Iran even look like? What would that mean for the balance of power in the region, for Israel's security, for the entire world? That is the kind of massive strategic challenge that we have this brief, quiet moment to prepare for.